Welcome to our deep dive today
Oh, yeah.
into one of the most chilling unsolved cases, I think, in true crime history.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Zodiac Killer. Please like, subscribe, and comment.
Yes.
I'm guessing you probably know the basics.
Yes.
You know, Northern California, late 1960s, early 1970s.
Right.
Unidentified serial killer terrorizing the Bay Area,
Right.
sending cryptic messages to the press.
Yeah, yeah.
But what makes this case so captivating even after all these years?
Oh, that's a good
And
question.
what can we glean from the sources you've shared?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that makes it so fascinating is that the Zodiac wasn't just a killer, he was really a master manipulator.
Right.
And he understood the power of fear and media attention.
Right.
You know, he wanted to be known, he wanted to be feared. And he used those ciphers and letters to control the narrative.
Yeah.
It's almost like he was creating a real-life horror movie, casting himself as the villain.
Yeah, it's like he was treating the whole thing as a game,
Yeah.
with the police and the public as his unwilling players.
Totally.
So let's start at the beginning with those first confirmed murders.
Okay.
December 20th, 1968.
Right.
Young couple,
Uh-huh.
Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday,
Mm-hmm.
are found shot to death in their car on this secluded lover's lane in Benicia.
Right.
What stood out to you about this first attack?
The sheer brutality, for one. I mean,
Yeah.
David was shot in the head at close-range execution style,
Whoa.
while Betty Lou was shot multiple times as she tried to run away.
Oh, gosh.
There was no robbery,
Hmm.
no sexual assault,
Mhm.
no apparent motive other than the cold-blooded taking of life.
Yeah.
This immediately set the tone for the terror that would grip the Bay Area.
And it's that lack of a clear motive that makes it even more chilling.
Right.
It's like staring into the abyss.
Yeah.
You know, not knowing what lurks beneath.
Exactly.
Then just a few months later, on July 4th, 1969,
Right.
the Zodiac strikes again. This time, attacking Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo.
Uh-huh.
Darlene tragically didn't survive, but Michael did,
Right.
providing investigators with their first eyewitness account.
Oh, wow.
This is also where the Zodiac's infamous communication with the press begins.
Right.
He sends these cryptic letters to several newspapers claiming responsibility for the murders
Uh-huh.
and demanding that they publish this 408 character cipher he included,
Yeah.
or he'd kill again.
Imagine you're an investigator reading that letter for the first time.
Oh my God.
You're dealing with a killer who's not only claiming his crimes,
Right.
but is actively trying to dictate how you handle the investigation.
Yeah.
It's a power play, a way for him to control the narrative and instill fear,
Right.
not just in the immediate victims, but in the entire community.
It's like he's playing chess and we're all just pawns in his game.
Yeah.
But the most incredible part is that the 408 character cipher was actually cracked,
Oh, yeah.
not by some elite code-breaking team,
Oh.
but by a school teacher and his wife?
That's right. Donald and Betty Hardin.
Oh, wow.
Using nothing more than their own ingenuity and persistence,
Yeah.
were able to decipher the message,
Yeah.
revealing a chilling glimpse into the killer's psyche.
Yeah.
I like killing people because it is so much fun.
Wow.
This wasn't just a confession, it was a boast,
Yeah.
a declaration of his twisted worldview.
It's unsettling because it suggests a profound detachment from human life,
Yeah,
a sadistic pleasure in inflicting pain and fear.
right.
And it makes his actions even more terrifying because you realize you're not dealing with someone who's simply lashing out or driven by some understandable motive. This is calculated intentional evil.
Right, and that message sent shockwaves through the community. I mean, the fear was palpable. This wasn't just a random killer. This was someone who was playing with the police,
Right.
with the media,
Yeah.
and with the public.
It's almost as if he was feeding off that fear, using it to fuel his own twisted sense of purpose. And his tactics continue to escalate just a few months later on September 27th, 1969.
Uh-huh.
He attacks Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard at Lake Berryessa.
Right.
This time he's wearing a hooded costume with the Zodiac symbol on it,
Yeah.
this image that he's carefully crafting for himself.
The hooded costume, the symbol, it all adds to the sense of theatricality.
Right.
It's as if he's consciously creating a persona, building a legend around himself.
And this time, instead of just shooting his victims, he ties them up and stabs them repeatedly,
Oh, gosh.
leaving behind another message on Hartnell's car door.
Right.
It's chilling because it shows a deliberate escalation in both violence and his need to control the narrative.
It's as if he's growing bolder, more confident, testing his limits and seeing how far he could push the boundaries.
And then he breaks from his established pattern,
Yeah.
taking his terror to the heart of San Francisco.
That's right. On October 11th, 1969,
Mhm.
Paul Stine, a cab driver, is shot and killed in San Francisco.
Right.
This shift to an urban setting is significant. It shows a willingness to adapt, to take risks, and to expand his hunting grounds.
Mm-hmm.
And just to drive home the point, he sends a piece of Stine's bloody shirt to the San Francisco Chronicle.
It's a horrifyingly brazen act.
Is.
A declaration that he can operate anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
And that no one is safe.
Right.
It's like he's saying, I'm not just some backroads boogeyman.
Yeah.
I can strike in the heart of your city, and there's nothing you can do to stop me.
It's a power move designed to instill maximum fear.
Right.
And demonstrate his complete control over the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll leave off for part 1 of our deep dive.
Okay.
We've explored the Zodiac's early crimes, his chilling communication with the press, and the escalating terror he inflicted on the Bay Area.
Right.
But there's so much more to unravel.
Yes.
Join us for part 2, where we'll delve into those unsolved ciphers,
Yeah.
examine the prime suspects, and try to understand the mind of this elusive killer.
It'll be fascinating.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We'll be right back with more insights into this fascinating and haunting case.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So welcome back to our deep dive into the mystery of the Zodiac Killer.
Last time we left off with the Zodiac striking in San Francisco, sending a killing message by mailing a piece of Paul Stine's shirt to the newspaper.
Right. It was a bold escalation that demonstrated his ability to adapt and, expand his territory.
And that brings us to one of the most, I think, fascinating and frustrating aspects of this case.
Yeah.
The Zodiac's unsolved ciphers.
Right.
You're an expert in code breaking.
Uh-huh.
So I'm curious, what are some of the key challenges investigators faced when trying to decipher these messages?
Well, you have to imagine you're handed a page filled with seemingly random symbols and letters.
Right.
Where do you even begin?
Yeah.
That was the dilemma that investigators faced.
Right.
The Zodiac used a variety of methods to encrypt his messages, some simple substitution ciphers, others more complex, incorporating symbols and mathematical patterns.
Oh, wow.
It must have felt like trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces.
Yeah.
Exactly. And remember, this was before the age of powerful computers
Right.
and sophisticated decryption software.
Of course.
Codebreakers had to rely on their own ingenuity, intuition, and a lot of trial and error.
Wow.
So it's all the more remarkable that some of these ciphers were actually cracked.
Yeah, like the 340-character cipher, which wasn't solved until 2020 by a team of amateur code breakers.
It's a testament to the power of collaboration and persistent effort.
Right.
But even when a cipher is cracked, it doesn't always yield the answers investigators are hoping for.
Yeah.
The decoded 340 cipher, for example,
Right.
contained a message taunting the police,
Uh-huh.
but provided no concrete leads to the Zodiac's identity.
Talk about a letdown.
I know, it's like finding the missing piece of a puzzle,
Yeah.
only to realize it doesn't fit anywhere.
Right, right.
And then there are the ciphers that remain unsolved to this day, like the Z13 and Z36.
Right.
Some believe they contain the Zodiac's real name,
Oh, wow.
while others speculate they might be elaborate hoaxes designed to mislead investigators.
It's like he wanted to make sure there were always more layers to unravel, more secrets to uncover.
Right.
He was determined to stay one step ahead, even from beyond the grave.
It's part of what makes the case so enduringly fascinating.
Yeah.
We're left with these tantalizing pieces of the puzzle.
Right.
These unsolved ciphers that could potentially hold the key to his identity.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
let's talk about some of the prime suspects.
Yeah.
Over the years, there have been many, but no one has ever been definitively linked to the crimes.
Right.
One of the most well-known suspects is Arthur Lee Allen.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about him and why he became a person of interest?
Arthur Lee Allen was a former school teacher and convicted sex offender
Right.
who lived in Vallejo close to several of the Zodiac's crime scenes.
Huh?
He had a Zodiac brand watch and made incriminating statements to acquaintances.
Yeah.
That raised suspicions.
So it sounds like there was a lot of circumstantial evidence pointing toward him.
There was, but despite extensive investigation,
Yeah.
including handwriting analysis and DNA testing, no conclusive evidence ever linked him to the crimes.
So he remains a fascinating but ultimately frustrating figure in the Zodiac saga.
Exactly. Another prominent suspect was Ross Sullivan,
Okay.
who worked at the library where one of the Zodiac's victims, Darlene Farron, was employed.
Uh-huh.
He bore a resemblance to composite sketches of the Zodiac and had access to the library's basement where the Zodiac may have printed some of his letters.
It's like these suspects all have these tantalizing threads connecting them to the case, but the evidence never quite comes together.
That's the enduring frustration of the Zodiac case.
Yeah.
There are always these tantalizing clues, these potential leads,
Right.
but they never quite lead to a definitive answer.
It's like chasing shadows.
It is.
So what are some of the reasons this case has remained unsolved for so long? Was it just the Zodiac's cunning, or were there other factors at play?
Well, the Zodiac was certainly a master manipulator.
Right.
But there were other significant challenges that hindered the investigation. We've already talked about the limitations of forensic technology at the time.
Right.
The lack of DNA analysis and sophisticated code-breaking tools.
Yeah.
But there's also the issue of jurisdiction.
Right. The Zodiac's crimes spanned multiple counties.
Exactly.
Which meant different police departments were involved, each with their own procedures and priorities.
Right.
I imagine that created a logistical nightmare for investigators.
It did. There was a lack of centralized information sharing and communication between agencies.
Right.
Which undoubtedly slowed down the investigation.
It's like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle with everyone working on different sections without talking to each other.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have the Zodiac's constantly evolving methods.
Right.
He shifted from shootings to stabbings, sometimes left victims alive, and deliberately altered his crime scenes.
Oh, wow.
It made it incredibly difficult for investigators to establish a consistent pattern.
It's like he was reading the investigator's playbook and then deliberately changing his tactics to throw them off balance.
Yeah, and let's not forget the media's role.
Right.
While they helped keep the case in the public eye. The intense scrutiny also put immense pressure on law enforcement, perhaps leading to hasty decisions or the prioritization of certain leads over others.
It's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, media attention can help generate tips and keep the case alive.
Right.
But on the other hand, it can also create chaos and misinformation, especially when you have a killer like the Zodiac who's actively manipulating the media for his own twisted purposes.
It's a complex interplay of factors.
Right.
And to fully grasp the magnitude of the challenges investigators faced, we have to consider the historical context.
Yeah.
We're talking about the late 1960s, early 1970s.
Right.
The Vietnam War is raging. Social and political upheaval is sweeping the nation. And law enforcement is grappling with rising crime rates and limited resources.
So the Zodiac case was unfolding against a backdrop of immense societal change and turmoil.
Exactly. And in the midst of all that, you have this elusive killer who seems to revel in the chaos, using his crimes to further sow fear and distrust.
Like you tapping into a collective anxiety.
Yeah.
A sense of uncertainty that was already permeating the culture.
And that's part of what makes the Zodiac case so enduringly fascinating. It's a reflection of a specific moment in time, a period of intense social and cultural transformation where the lines between reality and fiction, between order and chaos, seem to blur.
It's like a dark mirror reflecting back at us the anxieties and uncertainties of a bygone era.
And while the Zodiac's reign of terror eventually ended, his legacy continues to haunt us.
Yeah.
The unsolved nature of the case, the unanswered questions, the tantalizing clues that never quite lead to a resolution.
Yeah.
It all keeps us coming back, searching for answers, trying to make sense of the senseless.
Welcome back to the final chapter of our deep dive into the Zodiac Killer case. We've explored his chilling crimes, the puzzling ciphers, and the prime suspects who've haunted this investigation for decades.
And yet the central question remains, will we ever know who the Zodiac truly was?
That's the mystery that continues to grip true crime enthusiasts, isn't it? Even with some of his ciphers cracked, his identity remains a tantalizing enigma.
What's fascinating here is how the Zodiac case, despite its darkness, has shaped both law enforcement techniques and our cultural fascination with true crime. It's a story that continues to evolve even as we grapple with its unanswered questions.
Let's start with the evolution of investigative techniques. How has this case from the late 1960s and early 70s influenced how crimes are investigated today?
The Zodiac case was a crucible for criminal profiling. Though in its infancy at the time, the insights gleaned from his letters, his choice of victims and his modus operandi helped to advance this field. Imagine you're an investigator back then, suddenly confronted with a killer who's not only claiming his crimes, but taunting you with cryptic messages.
It must have been a game changer, forcing them to think outside the box, to consider not just the physical evidence, but also the psychological motivations driving this killer.
Precisely. It forced law enforcement to delve into the mind of the offender, to try to understand his motivations, his fantasies, his triggers, and to use that understanding to predict his next move.
And this brings us to the role of forensic science, which has advanced dramatically since the Zodiac's time. What are some of the tools available today that might have made a difference back then?
DNA analysis, for one. It wasn't available in the 1960s. But today, even trace amounts of DNA can link a suspect to a crime scene. Imagine if investigators had been able to extract DNA from those Zodiac letters, or from any of the crime scenes.
It could have been a game changer, potentially identifying the Zodiac or at least ruling out certain suspects.
And then there's forensic genealogy, a relatively new technique that uses DNA databases to trace familial connections. It's been remarkably successful in solving cold cases, identifying suspects through distant relatives who've submitted their DNA for ancestry testing.
So even if the Zodiac himself never submitted his DNA, a distant cousin might have unknowingly providing a crucial link.
Exactly. These are the kinds of tools that offer hope for finally solving this case, even after all these years.
But even if his identity is revealed, will we ever fully understand what drove him to commit these horrific acts? Is it even possible to truly comprehend the mind of a killer like the Zodiac?
That's a profound question, and one that continues to fascinate and frustrate true crime enthusiasts. Some experts believe his actions might have stemmed from a deep-seated need for control, a desire to exert power over life and death.
It's like he was playing God, deciding who lives and who died.
Others suggest his crimes might have been fueled by a profound sense of inadequacy, a twisted attempt to compensate for perceived failures or shortcomings.
And his fascination with ciphers and codes, his need to taunt the police and the public, could be seen as a way of seeking validation, of proving his intellectual superiority.
It's a complex tapestry of motivations, and we may never truly unravel all the threads.
But even if we don't find all the answers, the Zodiac case serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of ordinary life. It's a cautionary tale that forces us to confront the unsettling reality that evil can exist anywhere, even in seemingly idyllic communities.
And it highlights the importance of vigilance awareness and the need to constantly evolve our investigative techniques to stay one step ahead of those who seek to harm others.
Speaking of vigilance, how has the Zodiac case impacted public perception of safety and security? Has it made us more cautious, more aware of potential threats?
I believe it has. The Zodiac case in many ways marked the end of innocence for a generation. It shattered the illusion of safety, demonstrating that evil could strike anywhere, anytime.
It's like the boogeyman stepped out of the shadows and into our living rooms.
And that fear, that sense of vulnerability, has lingered in the collective consciousness, shaping how we view the world and approach personal safety.
It's a sobering legacy, but one that's also prompted important conversations about personal responsibility, community awareness, and the need for proactive law enforcement.
And let's not forget the Zodiac's enduring impact on popular culture. From books and documentaries to feature films like David Fincher's Zodiac, this case continues to fascinate and horrify audiences.
It's like a morbid fascination, a desire to understand the darkness while simultaneously being repulsed by it.
And that duality, that tension between fascination and revulsion, is part of what makes the Zodiac case so compelling. It's a story that forces us to confront the unsettling aspects of human nature, the potential for evil that exists within us all.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Zodiac Killer case. We've explored his crimes, his ciphers, his suspects, his impact on investigative techniques, and his enduring legacy in true crime and popular culture.
But even as we conclude this exploration, the mystery remains. Will his true identity ever be revealed? Will we finally be able to put a name to the face of terror?
It's a question that continues to haunt us, a reminder that some mysteries may never be fully solved. But the pursuit of truth, the unwavering commitment to justice, that's what keeps us searching, keeps us hoping that one day the shadows will recede and the truth will be revealed.
And as we move forward, let's carry with us the lessons learned from this case, the importance of vigilance, the power of forensic science, and the unwavering belief that even in the face of darkness, the human spirit will always strive for justice.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of the Zodiac Killer case. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of history, science, and the mysteries that continue to shape our world.